Welcome to the Building a Better You podcast, presented by the Garner Chamber of Commerce Young Professionals. I'm Nick Spindler with Community of Hope Ministries.
And I'm Chris Morgan with Grow Local Realty.
The goal of this podcast is to help young professionals develop and grow into successful business people in their communities.
In each episode, we will talk with local business leaders to provide strategies and tips to help our listeners.
So let's dive right in.
Welcome back to the Building a Better You podcast. In studio, we have Zack Stephenson with the Poole Family YMCA. How are you doing?
Hey, man. Really excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, otherwise known as Shaggy.
Yeah.
For those of you out there that probably don't know this, Chris, Zack, and I have all worked together at the Y a good time ago, but it was a good time, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of neat, like seeing some of the overlap of staff and kids and kind of where people are now. Absolutely.
For me, like it's exciting to see like where you are now, as we were, cubicle buddies basically next to each other in the office. And now it's the associate branch director.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I took that role over about a year ago. So really excited for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's just really cool to see that progression for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. It's so funny because I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, we started 2013 together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then after that was right when it ended, and then I was like, well, I haven't seen Shaggy in God knows how long. So, because then at that moment, you had left, we left, you came back, we never came back, sadly, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to have you a part of the show, and we can't wait to dive deeper on, to talk about, just giving in general. So we want to thank you for your time.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
for sure.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're excited. This episode is going to drop right before Christmas, and so we figured it would be fitting to talk about giving back and giving back to our community, and who better to invite in than someone that works for a local nonprofit that is all about that. So as you think about that, why do you think it is important to give back?
So for me, it's a great question because the ability to kind of give back to our community has so many different layers to it. It's the sense of you're helping the people in your community that maybe are more vulnerable or need that support. In turn, it's a way to make your community better because your community is getting strength. It's coming together, finding that rallying point that, everybody can kind of come around. And it just makes your community a stronger place. I think it's also great with the networking. I met so many different people in Garner that I probably wouldn't have run in the same circles with, if you will. But being there to support, whatever event we're at, has been really neat as well. Yeah,
and I think it's important because there's, no matter what community you're in, there's always somebody that's in need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is really cool to see, and especially here in Garner, I feel like we have such a great community that loves to give back. And it is just really cool. I work for a nonprofit as well. It's really cool to be a part of that. And I say a lot, like I feel blessed, almost guilty that that's my job of kind of helping coordinate those efforts, because there's something really powerful about seeing a community come together to give back and lift people up.
Yeah. And I love the idea too that the nonprofits and the support from this community it's for everybody,
Yeah.
And so being at different events, you're going to have different nonprofits coming out and to support. And I don't know if that's the same everywhere, but to be able to have, all these different people with different companies, but still have the same passion to make their community better is a special place.
I feel like the Y is really big on giving back, though, for sure, just through my time of being there, but also through the various organizations that you guys are a part of. I just was like, wow, sorry. To be able to just give back in general, though, of giving to the community for those that, for summer camp reasons, for track out reasons, for teachers that are just in the community that need just extra, for teacher work days. I think it's like SOS or whatnot. I was like, things in that nature. I'm like, wow, you would never guess from the YMCA standpoint of all that you guys do to help out within that community. And so I think that's absolutely fantastic of what you guys are doing as a nonprofit, as an organization, and to know that it's not just here within the Garner area or Johnson County, but you guys are really impacting the communities that you guys serve in.
So maybe we'll give you a second just to plug. Chris mentioned some of them, but what are some of the things that some of the other things that the YMCA is doing that people could get plugged into?
Yeah, so I mean that's great. The annual campaign is one event that we do. We actually just finished it up and had a very successful year. A lot of great support, and 100% of the money that we raise from that campaign goes back to helping the different avenues of the Y. And so, one that I actually just finished up tonight for Thanksgiving, we were passing out meals to families that are food insecure.
That's awesome.
We passed about 200 meals out tonight, which was really a special event. We now have the facility that we didn't have when we were all counselors.
Yeah.
We had the small office, and so being able to provide a Live Strong program. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a program that's completely funded by that annual campaign, and it's for members that are, or not even members, it's for people in the community that are either battling cancer or recovering from cancer. And so a quick story to that, the first time we ever ran it, it's supposed to be like an 8-week program. And the group that came together was so connected and found so much joy that even when the program finished, they still worked out on the same time frame because they just had so much fun with connecting, with talking, with supporting. And so that's a really fun one as well. And then we have the programs that we did, back when we were staffed together, the before school, the after school, track out, summer day camp. And so really what we want to do is we want to move the financial barrier for somebody that needs the support to go to those. So like you were saying, if a mom is needing to find a safe place for her kid to go, we don't want the finances to be the reason that she has to choose, why can my kid do this or not do this? And so just a really great opportunity for the families in the community.
That's awesome.
That is good. And thinking about the why, you kind of mentioned some specifics, but even just the community in general, what are some ways that we as individuals can give back to our community?
So I think a lot of times when people are thinking, how do I support, a nonprofit or how do I give back, a lot of times it'll go into a financial reason. And if you have that capacity, that's great. But that's one piece. And so I know with, the Garner Chamber and the young professionals, it's how do we support with volunteer hours? And so that's a really great way. So if you're starting your career and you're like, hey, I really am passionate about giving my time, my energy, that can be just as impactful, to showing up and passing food out or supporting, passing things out for Angel Tree or helping with a blood drive. There's so many ways that you can give back in that regard. And then one that I think is really neat as well is, maybe you don't have the capacity to do either, but can you help share what that nonprofit is doing on social media and say, hey, check out the great work that the YMCA is doing, that Community Hope's doing, that Able to Serve's doing. And then that hopefully kind of catches fire as well, because we all have different circles and like, I didn't realize Garner was doing that. That's really cool. I want to do Relay for Life now because I saw Nick post that. And so I think, between all of those avenues, I think most people can find one that kind of falls into where they're at in that walk of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you mentioned about bringing those passions to your business, because a lot of businesses will support you in those efforts, whether it's giving you a half day off or a full day off to go and serve with those organizations, or maybe it's you do a food drive for a local food pantry or whatever it might be. Even there's businesses that will take the whole day off for their whole business and go serve somewhere. So I think it can be important to share those passions and those thoughts and those desires about wanting to give back to your coworkers, to your bosses, because there could be opportunities there. Even during the workday.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you get paid to do it, that's also not a bad thing either.
Absolutely. That's win-win right there, right?
I got to talk to my boss, right?
You have a conversation with yourself, go back and forth. Yeah.
Well, I always say that is very true. So I love what you said also you had mentioned Relay for Life. That I know here in Garner, that's mostly something that happens around the springtime. So it seems to me that you guys are always doing something throughout the year for your community to give back to the YMCA. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome, because we always think of, when we correlate giving back and doing things in the season, we're thinking of, holiday season, why not? That's how I think of it. You have that little bitty time frame. That's when Angel Tree's happening and giving for food for Thanksgiving, you name it. So is there anything else that we could do throughout the school year or throughout the summertime? To be able to do.
One of the things that immediately kind of jumps out to me is we've had some people that come in. We have a Y Learning program, and this is something that's really neat. It's again paid for by that campaign. We raise the money, and the schools that we serve get to identify families that their kids may benefit from some extra tutoring, EOG prep, homework help, things like that. And we've had people come in that are like, "Hey, I can donate 2 hours of my time, and I really want to help this kid." With this academic portion. So that one's always a really fun one that's running throughout the year all the time. We've had a lot of success with backpack buddies and helping, we really want to make sure that, some kids are getting their meals at school for breakfast and for lunch. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting them to get that lunch or that food at dinner, if you will. And so that one's always a really fun one. Going into the summer, one that we've done, and Nick, I can't remember if you helped with the Swim for Life program that we used to do. It's really a water safety class. And so, again, making sure that people that don't have access to be in the water, if they found themselves in a situation where they need help, hey, I remember this is how I tread water. This is how I get out of water. This is how I'm safe around water. And so really making sure that everybody has access. And then if they're like, hey, you know what, I am really comfortable around the water, then we can go over to how do I get help for swim lessons? How do I make this a life skill that I'm learning? And so we've had a tremendous amount of businesses that are local being like, hey, I learned to swim at the Y. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. And you guys know in your industry, so many people are moving here from different states. And they're like, I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up in California. I grew up, Midwest. But I had a YMCA and I learned to swim. And so that's a really fun way that a lot of people connect with and are really excited to give back.
I love that. And I know when I was there was this one program, I can't even think of the name of it, but it was basically where you guys partner with Wake Med to also help, I'm assuming, families that had someone in the family that was, I'm assuming, pre-diabetic. And so that was a good way for me,
that
just
was like the 5 for 5 campaign or something.
I do remember that. We had a lot of success with that one. And it's always interesting, because we're talking, 2013, and it's neat to see how things kind of transition and, some programs evolve into other things. And now we're really focusing on the Live Strong aspect of it, helping the cancer survivors. And so it's just neat that it's not the same thing all the ways. As your community's needs change, your nonprofits have to recognize that and to support, like, hey, for me to be relevant, I know that I've got to do this. And it makes me think of, when our pandemic was in full effect and full swing, how a lot of the nonprofits were able to change to help with the scholastic support or the academic support. And, a lot of churches came out, and it was a scary time, but how quickly these organizations pivoted and were able to get back to, hey, my mom and dad have to work. My mom's a nurse, my dad's a firefighter. I can't work I can't do academic support from home. And so it's neat just to see the progression over the years and what that can morph into.
Yeah, and I think mentioning the pandemic and the remote learning, we both operated one of those programs, and it was really cool just to see the community come and support that. Because that Community of Hope, we jumped in with $0 and said, hey, we're going to offer a full day program to 50 kids. And we don't have any money for it. But by December, the program was fully funded. And so, and I know y'all operated one as well. And so it was just really cool to see that as the needs changed, the organizations were able to figure out ways to meet those needs, and then the community was able to wrap their arms around them and support them. That was just, it was a very tough time, but it was really incredible.
And looking for some of the positive that came out of that, I think you really hit it on where the community came in to support. We jumped in, and there's a saying that, I hear a lot of times, like, I learned how to fly the plane while I was building it. It was very much the concept that we were moving with. But I've never felt more supported from volunteers, from parents, from teachers, and just how much respect I had for teachers that are like, hey, I've taught in a classroom for 12 years, but now I'm on Zoom with kindergartners trying to do this lesson plan. And, now we had a small part in helping support them was really special. Yeah,
I remember in our program, there was a kindergartner, and the first week, he was like, hey, like, and I walked up to him, I'm like, all right, buddy, like, that's not how you get our attention. Like, what do you need to do to get our attention? And he just kind of stared at me with a blank stare. And, I'm like, I'm trying to coach him, like, you're supposed to raise your hand. And then it, like, hit me, like, this kid has no clue.
Yeah.
Like, he's a kindergartner. Like, that's what he's supposed to be learning right now. And, like, it just hit me, like, and I was just like, oh, my gosh, those teachers. Like, how's a kindergarten teacher supposed to be, like, transferring that over Zoom? Like, yeah, it was
Yeah, there was definitely some fun conversations. I was walking behind somebody down at the multi-purpose room at the Y, and, you know, there's the Brady Bunch kind of, you know, layout, and everybody's in there. And I'm able to hear this teacher, and she's like, please put the lightsaber down. And I was like, I guarantee you this is the first time this teacher's ever had to say, you know, hey, please put the lightsaber up. And sure enough, there's a kid swinging a lightsaber. So I just, it was a learning opportunity, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. But Chris, I love your point that you brought up of, like, there's opportunities throughout the year. Like, it is front and center during the holiday season. But no matter what community you're in, no matter what nonprofits are in your community, like, there's going to be needs and ways you can get plugged in all year long. So
who knows? We could possibly bring back the blue T-shirts. Is it still blue?
Still blue.
Still blue. We could bring back the blue T-shirts and the cargo shorts with a belt tucked on.
Nobody's bringing those back.
No. Oh man, I thought so.
Chris is trying. Well, that's awesome. So, you know, definitely want to encourage you guys. It's December and we're all thinking about it. So find ways. But talk to people like Zach, people like me at Community of Hope, or, you know, if you're not in the Garner community, whoever it might be, if you got a YMCA in your city or whatever the nonprofits are, like you mentioned, Zach, another great one here in Garner is able to serve. And they've got stuff going on all year long. They don't take a summer break. So, you know, there's always going to be a need, and there's always going to be organizations stepping up to meet those needs. So find a way to get plugged in all year long. But as we bring the plane in for a landing, there's two questions we ask all our guests. And so the first one is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I'd have to say this was something I was given at the start of my career.
Okay.
So guys, think back 22-year-old you, and how excited you were to be in your first job. And I just remember my director was like, hey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I was like, I hear you. And he's like, no, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I was going to change the world. You know, I was going to raise money for annual campaign. I was going to save every kid. I was going to, you know, I had that desire. You know, we always joke, drink the Kool-Aid at the Y. I had drank the Kool-Aid, and, you know, it very quickly can develop into a non-sustainable work-life balance.
Right.
And so I think as I've aged, you know, and grown and developed in my career, of learning, like, how that healthy balance is of, like, dedicating time for yourself, what fills your bucket, what's keeping you motivated. Because if you yourself are able to keep that balance and to feed in what makes you happy outside of work, it's going to make you a more productive person in your job. And so that's something I try to tell all of our staff as they start, is like, hey, I know that passion is there, and I'm excited, and I want it to be as beneficial as it can, but I want you to be successful, and I want you to be here in 2 years.
Yeah. That's good.
So and the other question is, what is one thing that you utilize every single day to help better yourself?
Yeah.
It could be personal or it could be business related.
So for me, the best part of my day is about 5:15. I go to pick my kids up at daycare, and so they are so excited to see me every day, and it's like a superhero is coming to pick them up. And so it doesn't matter, you know, have we done budget meetings? You know, have we is something bad happen? You know, in the sense of we missed, you know, doing something that we were supposed to do. Is there, you know, a deadline that's sneaking up on you? But when I get there to pick them up and they run up and give me that hug, it resets. Doesn't matter what I've had, and I'm just like, okay. And then I go home, and that's kind of that transition I make. And then again, that work-life balance of, like, now I'm in for my kids, and, you know, and taking advantage of that. So I know it won't be that way forever. I know, you know, I have a 3 and 5-year-old, and I know eventually they're going to be like, oh, Dad, you're here.
Yeah.
But right now I'm soaking it in. I'm their favorite part of picking them up in the afternoon.
Man, that's so good.
Are we ending it with a cheer? Are we ending it with a cheer right now, Nick?
I'm liking where your head's at right now.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's bringing back our, you know, YMCA days. I mean, it depends. I don't remember.
Back to when Chris was like a baby counselor and really enthusiastic.
Yeah. Enthusiastic.
Yeah, there you go. I pulled that out the other day, and everybody's like, wait, it's not summer camp. And I'm like, it's okay. You can still do it.
That's what I said. Like, are we still doing this nowadays?
All right, so ready, guys?
Wait, hang on.
Oh, no?
Which one are you doing?
You gotta. It's easy, all right? Give me 2 claps, 2 snaps, and a woohoo.
And a woohoo.
That's my go-to right there.
It's so funny because we did yeehaw. We didn't do the woohoo. We were back in our day. We did woohoos.
I never
Or
knew that one.
You didn't?
No,
Let me hear you.
that wasn't my
yeehaw.
go-to.
Yeah, we did a yeehaw.
There you go.
Yeah. I was like, we didn't do a woohoo. That's new.
Nick, what do you
What's
got?
your favorite?
What was my favorite?
I like the cool mama.
Are we
I will say
doing
that.
attention again? What are we're going cheers? If we have to go cheers, I guess I'd have to go. I'm a little bit partial, a little bit biased, because I co-created it. But
I know where you're going.
oh, you know where I'm going. At camp, it was actually your brother,
Yeah.
Matt. He and we created it was for Camp Great Adventure. So one of us would say camp, the other would say great, and then we jump up and say adventure, woo! And so it was just part of a skit. We had no intention of it being a cheer. It was just part of a skit we did the first week, and then all of a sudden by we did it every day, and by Thursday and Friday, kids were like walking around the hall doing it, to the point where it like came a camp tradition that anytime anybody said Camp Great Adventure, that's how you said it. And I think it's still going to this day.
2022, it's still going,
It's
buddy.
still going.
Is
So
it? That's
is.
awesome.
Man, that hits me right there in the
I
heart.
love
Like
it.
that
I
makes
love
me
it.
so proud. But so if we're going for my favorite cheer, it'd be Camp Great Adventure. Woo!
That's for our good friend Matt.
yeah.
Just
So Matt Stephenson, you gotta listen to this. I'll give him credit. It wasn't just me. Matt and I helped do that, and it's still going strong. So I'm really proud of that.
Shout out
one.
to Matt. It's so funny because we used to do the other one was someone would say like so, and every time,
What?
yes, every time it never failed. So when we had people just had random conversations on stage, that was the one, and you're like, all right, cheer switch off. I'm sorry, guys, I gotta get out what I
You
gotta
always
say.
gotta turn that cheer switch off.
But we really do appreciate it, Shaggy. I'm sorry, I'm just used to Shaggy, not
Yeah.
Zach. Zach's
That's
just
my real name, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, if you don't know my Shaggy, you should really get to know
Then
this
you
guy.
don't know him.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming out here for doing this. We'll throw your contact information in their show notes. So if you're looking to get plugged in, just go to the show notes. There's contact information for you there. And as always, please rate, review, subscribe. We hate saying it, but it helps it get out to more people. Remember, 5-star reviews. All the 1-star reviews can go to Dustin@GarnerChamber.com. Just put all the 5-star ones there on Apple or Spotify.
Let's
or
go,
wherever you listen.
baby.
But thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Mine was between Thursday night and Friday morning when my college staff would be like, "Oh, I'm not feeling that well," but you could hear like the music in the background. It's like, I'm like, really? You're not feeling that well? Okay, I got you.
That's too funny.